An electioneering campaign from anywhere in Nigeria. Political news stories, political editorial reviews, political discussions, personality profile, People's Parliament from the National, State and Local Government Assembly. Contact us now on 0803-471-8550 or 0803-724-9733. 01453-3407.
Our 24-hour news station.
It's good to know that you're still there with us on Core Digest this morning. And we're still talking about Boko Haram, Jonathan's end-time vow and the Danjuma Committee. But on this second part, we'll be majoring more on why Nigeria needs to get a loan of $1 billion. And of course, you can keep sending your comments on Facebook, facebook.com/Core TV News. And still as our guest, we have Dikpo Olayokun, is a journalist and a public affairs analyst. Mr. Dikpo, you were talking earlier about the $1 billion, and you said that translates to 160 billion naira.
Conservative estimates.
Exactly. So what's your take? Do we need, you were talking about it's not much, but the truth is, do we need to get a loan at this time?
Yeah, I think that is the crux of the matter. A state, and when I say a state, I mean a country, just like any business venture, is run on the finances, and that's what we call the economy. The richest man in Africa today is Alhaji Aliko Dangote. And if you look into his records, the guy must have secured loans for so many of his businesses. As a matter of fact, we were told that he wants to start a refinery and he wants to get I think $8 billion or I think it's $8 million or $8 billion loan. If you convert this money into naira, maybe it's over 1 or 2 trillion naira. And if this man, according to the Forbes that are grading this rich man that placed him at #1 in Africa, I think the guy is worth about $20 billion. That's what translates about more than 3 trillion naira. So you ask yourself, why would this man want to take another loan to go and start a business when he could have just dipped his hands into his resources? But business is not run that way, because you keep for the rainy day. So if the Nigerian government wants to take a loan, I don't think it's too far-fetched. And even for a country
Are we comparing this, the issue of defense and security to business now? Business will definitely yield returns.
Just like a country, because there's no amount of money you invest in defense that is too much. Because if there's no security, investments cannot come. Even local investors, not foreign investors, will not come into a trouble spot. So what, as an investor, what you look at is how stable is that country. And with this problem of insurgency, I don't think I will want to take my business to anywhere in the Northeast now. Don't forget that even this guy told us, there are reports rather, that when Malala said he was coming to visit Nigeria, people were asking questions. What are you going to do there? Because there's a firm belief outside this country that it's like bombs are just dropping here and there. So there's a need for the government, because that is why Section 14 is very clear on security and welfare. Because without security, there cannot be welfare. So the issue now is, for a country to even be counted to be creditworthy is a plus. Because there are some countries that they will say, oh, we cannot lend you money again because, one, the ones who have been borrowing, you have not been paying, then we don't see the prospect that you are going to pay. Then, like I said earlier, the issue of defense or security is very, very germane in any country. But the question now is, we need the loan, if I can state that categorically. But is it desirable? That is the most important thing. One, I told you $1 billion, just about 160 billion naira. Then you look at in the area of military armament, how much is that? Don't forget that in the past 3 years, when this insurgency became like an upsurge in the insurgency, National Assembly has made it a portion of duty that any amount that the president, or let me say the executive, budget for the security, they don't tamper with it. It's one area that they don't even debate. They push it to the next region. In the past 4 years, consistently, the president has been budgeting over about 1 trillion naira each year for defense. you are looking at 160 billion naira that he wants to, that he's going for now. How many 160 billion naira do you take out from 1 trillion naira?
But someone like Femi Falana, a delegate at the ongoing national conference, the national conference that is supposed to have ended today, says that the government should be made to account for the 3 trillion naira, that is from 2010 to 2013. And of course, in the appropriation bill, we have 968.127 billion naira, and that is out of the whole 4.962 trillion naira in the appropriation bill. That is just this year in May. One will ask, what's the justification? First, the government has been made to account for these monies. Are we saying those monies are not enough to justify another loan? Or shouldn't the government be saying and telling Nigerians what these monies have been used for?
I was driving at that. That was why I made reference to that in the past 3-4 years, National Assembly has never tampered with the budgetary allocation for defense. And that's why I said, at least consistently, they have been budgeting 1 trillion naira per year. Then you ask yourself, when this crisis became so much that our military were overwhelmed, people started asking questions. What happened to all these trillions you have been budgeting? Then the executive came and said, oh, it's a rot that has been happening over the past 20 years. But I'm aware that in the past 10, 15 years, even when we went into this democracy, defense, maybe until about 4 years ago, has always been attracting the largest chunk of the budget. People were even saying after we were not fighting wars. So the issue of how did we get to this area or how did we get to this road is open to everybody. It's still the same cankerworm of corruption. And don't forget that when this thing came up, people were urging the National Assembly to use the oversight function to go and ask questions. How come that we are this depleted? I mean the military. Despite all this amount of money we have budgeted, some people said, no, it's a military issue. FY bill does not go into it. It wasn't going into security. So you notice that this is still the same stumbling block we put on the way of enthroning accountability and transparency. I said that thing, that yes, we need the loan, but it's not desirable. Just in line with, why do we need the loan? Why are we taking, no, we need the loan, but why are we taking the loan? Are we saying that from the 4 trillion naira, because that's why I said, how much is 1 billion naira? 160 billion. How many 160 can you take from 1 trillion naira in a year? Maybe about 6. If chances of something cannot solve a problem, how can you tell me a fraction will solve the problem? That is the issue we are looking at. How can you tell me that the 1 trillion naira they are budgeting every year, they cannot even raise 220 billion to improve the military armament rather? Then, Nigeria is said to have about 43, and now, though they have depleted it from 60-something, about $43 billion in our external reserves. Why can't we take 1 billion out of that to leave about 42? Because this money has been depleted. Nobody knows what they're using it for. We have electricity problem, we have road infrastructure problem, yet this money is depleting. They're not taking this money. It's just there, $43 billion. Why can't you take 1 billion from it, convert it to 160, then instead of taking loan? Because by the time you take loan, you are mortgaging the future of the current generation. We knew what happened when Obasanjo and Okonjo-Iweala, when they were dancing, because they said they took Nigeria off the debt line. When these people wrote off our debt, though some of us still believe that we were shortchanged in the system. Because what they said we were owing, Nigeria was not owing as much as that. But at least that one has gone. They said they removed Nigeria from the hook of the debt. But we are systematically going back into where we left. How are we going back to Egypt? So that's why I say, yes, we need it, but it's not desirable. We have areas where you can raise this 160 billion naira. There is a lot of waste in government. The other day they said this woman in the last 2 years spent 10 billion naira on flying around. Can't we take from that money? And if you move very close to people in government, my dear Ebon, there is a lot of waste around government. Until you move closer to them. If only they can cut areas of waste, all of these things we are talking about will not arise. So if Falana is now calling on National Assembly, which the call will not be heeded because they are in the same boat, they will approve that loan. If he's calling on the National Assembly not to approve, I think it's in the right direction. There are some areas where they can harness, because this loan of a thing we are talking about is mortgaging the future of this country. But if as to how much, there's no amount of money that is too much to spend on security. It's only if we're able to remove areas of corruption. Because if you budget 1 trillion naira every year, how much are we budgeting? Maybe 4.95 trillion. And we are taking 1/5 for security. And yet there's no security anywhere in Nigeria. Then there's the need for us to ask questions.
A retired colonel once on this show called Digest was saying no amount is too much, because when you begin to look at the equipment needed to fight, because it has been declared a war in Nigeria, this insurgency, it then began mentioning how much countries like the United States of America spend on war equipment or military equipment and all, and he's saying Nigeria is nowhere close. Yeah. Now that we have a situation like this, of course you heard in the news earlier where the coordinator of National Information Center is saying that this is not the time to begin to calculate cost. This situation we found ourselves, say we've not had enough power to conquer insurgency, don't you think anything should be done? Like you supported the issue of exchanging these insurgents for these girls. Say, really, these equipments are expensive. Should we be missing this money, or we should just go all ahead and use everything in our disposal too? Once we can fight insurgency.
I've always been consistent on the issue of there's no amount that is too much to prosecute this war. I have said it more than 10 times on this forum.
But in this case, yes?
The point is, do we really need it? Is it desirable? What we are saying is there are areas where they can harness. Chief Obafemi Awolowo, as the Minister of Finance of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, prosecuted the 3-year flu blown war without borrowing 1 kobo in this country. And what Nigeria had at that time as a revenue would not even come near what we make now. It's a matter of how do you manage your resources. It's a matter of how do you plug loopholes, so that people don't just see it as an opportunity to just line their pockets. And some people have even come up with the idea that this thing is festering, this insurgency is festering, because some people are profiting remarkably from the war. There was a story of a military officer that was accused of having his account about $43 billion in this country. Then you begin to ask yourself.
You'd continue with that line of thoughts, but we have Bimbo Adeoye from Abuja. This shows that there was neither a developmental goal or agenda for Nigeria by the PDP and President Jonathan. Obama had Obamacare within 2 years of his presidency. What have we to show for these past 6 years? The next president of Nigeria must have a workable plan that will help us develop as a nation. Of course, this is questioning how far the Jonathan administration has gone. And, you know, during his speech, too, our president actually was regretting why he has to put together a committee like this, that instead of this, if not for the unfortunate incidences that has bedeviled the nation, we should be talking about the transformation agenda. We should be pushing that forward. You know, that is what this administration is about. But because of the situation we found ourselves, can we actually compare ourselves to United States? Is United States facing the kind of insurgency we're facing, like Bimbo said?
It's like, it's not that U.S. is not facing, but what U.S. has been able to do is to ward off attack. Because when you have insurgency, it's a very difficult situation. It's just like this terrorist of a thing. How do you fight somebody who is prepared to die? Even if he wire himself with bombs, the best you can do is to shoot him. You shoot him, the thing will still explode. So what people do is to ward them away so that they don't come near you or at the point of their planning. And that is why Nigerians have been wondering. For the past 3 years, we have been arresting Boko Haram members. Every day you wake up, they say 500 Boko Harams killed, 20 arrested. The point Nigerians are asking, the question is, how come that they have not been able to infiltrate through these guys you are holding? Because if you have somebody of Kabiru Sokoto's caliber, whom they told us was second in command then, these guys should have been able to tell them themselves how they operate, so that the government will be able to nip it in the bud. We don't wait until this bomb explodes, we visit the place, we say we'll go after them. Americans don't allow them to quit. What they do is to ward them away. And how do you do it? You put them in disarray, so that they don't have a place to locate. If Boko Haram has been said to be in Sambisa forest for some months now, and those people are there, they are living, they are even recording, sending video clips to us, then there's a problem. So on the issue of accountability, because that is the most important thing. How come that 1 trillion naira in a year for 4 years have not been able to equip the army? There's only 160 billion that we are taking. Because I'm looking at 160 billion to one. You know, I said it's not much. That's 1 trillion naira and 1 billion. Just about one sixth of 1 trillion naira. And that's what we budget every year.
Let me hold you again. We have Ahmed Hafiz from Nasarawa. It doesn't matter what they buy if poverty rate remains 90% and unemployment 70%. Any fight against Boko Haram will remain a non-starter. It is easy for a poor man to want to burn down the town because he has nothing to lose. But a rich man wants to make peace because he has lots of good things going on for him. That $1 billion Jonathan is begging for will solve our electricity woes. Danjuma Committee will succeed if the nation is lifted out of poverty. But then if we face electricity, what about insurgency? Because that is what, like you said earlier, if we even want to have investments, you need a peaceful place to run your business. And
I mentioned the psychology of these boys. What prompted them? What pushed them? Okay, about 4 months ago, there was the story of this guy. I can't remember his name, Ramoni or something in Ibadan. He was doing some business in Lagos. Then maybe this last Kai guys handled him. He went back to Ibadan. He started Okada business. While doing this thing, his wife left him. He lost 2 children. And while doing this Okada thing, there is this the Lasma version, the Oyo State version of Lasma. I've forgotten their name now. They confiscated this Okada, and this guy wanted to commit suicide. If you now see this, and we have millions of them in Nigeria, to them, life holds nothing again. Go on the streets, you will notice that Nigeria is sitting on a keg of gunpowder, because many of our youths have lost hope about their future. And I said it initially. What will prompt a man to wire himself up and go and detonate a bomb in the midst of Nigerians, fellow Nigerians? The guy doesn't see himself as a Nigerian. So that is what the guy is talking about, the psychology of these guys. And the Omeri was saying something about at this stage, they cannot be accounting for how much they have spent. That is the problem. Why can't they account? They are collecting this money. Just like the typical of Nigerian officials, about some years back, there was this, they call it sophisticated toilets that they said they launched or commissioned at the airports. Then one of the reporters from Radio Nigeria asked the woman, how much have you spent? He said it's not official. I was reading the paper yesterday. They said they have bought new wagons, new coaches for railway, the Nigeria Railway Corporation. Then journalists, after listening to the sweet talk by the guy who was so excited that they have done this, the guy said, how much did this thing cost Nigeria? No answer. Why is it that we find it difficult to place value on what we have? What stops Omeri from saying, okay, now we are requesting for 150 billion naira as a loan. This is what we have collected so far. This is how we have spent the money, so that Nigerians will know, because that is the fear. I have listened to a lot of Nigerians complain about, okay, the money they have been collecting, what have they spent them on? And that is where you should have used the opportunity to say, okay, these are the what we have collected, this is what we have spent the money on, and this is what we want, the breakdown of how we are going to spend 160 billion naira. Nobody is grudging them they want to take loan. But the point is, the ones you have collected, the ones you have appropriated, how much did you spend?
We have Chinedu Hope from Ketu. How can the president be asking Nigerians for more money when there is no proof that all the almost 1 trillion naira spent on defense has yielded anything positive? Armed robbers are everywhere, even in Lagos, where there had been good security for some time. Ketu residents are now mere praise for armed robbers. The upright will resort to crime when there seemed to be no reward for good deeds. I think that is still in line with what you were saying.
Yes.
But talking about the immediate, because if we're talking about poverty alleviation, we can't just wake up one day and we find everybody off the streets or everybody begin to live well above $1 in a day. But we're talking about a situation of insurgency, because whether you live well or not, we're all subjects to this, because whatever happens in the northern part of the country concerns us. And of course, in that same video, we heard an issue where Shekau was saying that the explosion in Lagos, which security officers have tried to cover up, he actually said it was a cover-up. You know, people asked questions if it was bomb blast, and we were told it wasn't. It was just an explosion, which wasn't tied to something, but he's claiming responsibility for that. So it's in every part of the country. For immediate solution, what do you think Nigeria should do?
Fine. For immediate solution, I think the first step is to how do we deplete the army of the insurgents? How do we make sure they don't have ready hands to recruit, what do? You get an average Nigerian youth engaged. Somebody said you can do it by improving electricity supply. Yes, because a lot of businesses in Nigeria, even small-scale businesses, large-scale businesses, medium-scale businesses, run on energy. And when you're talking of energy, you are talking of electricity and petroleum. And these are two commodities that are very, very expensive in Nigeria. Most of these guys riding Okada, many of them are artisans. We are artisans. They learn one trade or the other. Like barbing salon, they will have opened this, like vulcanizer. Many of them abandoned this thing because there's no electricity to power their machines. That's why you see all of them riding Okada. And after riding Okada, there's one policeman who will relay you, collect 500 naira from 700 you have made. This guy has already bottle anger in him. And at a slight progression, he explodes. So what do? Let us make sure that we get our youths adequately and positively engaged. That is why everything still revolves around energy. Many of these boys, if you look at case studies and reports on this Boko Haram, many of them are disgruntled elements. Many of them are the so-called area boys in Lagos. I don't know if you have encountered area boys. Area boys will come to you. It happened to me on several occasions. They will come to your car inside the traffic. Oh, yeah, give us something. If you are dilly-dallying, they will say, we can take it by force. So that is to let you know the desperado of the youth in Nigeria today.
You'd continue, but we have this one from Ikenwe Bere from Delta. Even if Nigeria borrows $1 trillion to fight Boko Haram, what happened to all the money earlier budgeted for security will also repeat itself, and ordinary Nigerians will continue to pay for the effect of corruption in leadership. I personally have no confidence in the ability of this government to fight insurgency because all I see is lip service while thousands of Nigerians die every day. Still, following what some have said earlier, thank you so much, Ikenwe. Yes,
yes, because if we're able to take some of these boys off the streets, we will reduce the crime rate to there's nowhere you can remove crime from every society. But what governments do is to reduce it to the barest minimum so that they will be able to contain it. But when you have a large army of unemployed youths, disgruntled youths that are angry, you see crime every now and then. Anybody that comes to them to recruit them into this violence of a thing, what does it take? At the time, they told us that Boko Haram was using 500,000 to recruit people into their fold. Whereas Nigerians, our children, are paying money to get job. Whereas Boko Haram is paying people to get job. You still remember the story of Nigerians that paid 1,000 naira to immigration service. What happened to them? Many of them died. The minister is in office. And you think these boys will go home and be happy? They are hungry. But unfortunately, fortunately for us, we have not seen somebody to approach them. Okay, come and do this for us. But we have people that are not as educated as them that are littered everywhere in Nigeria. And any recruitment you want to do, they are willing to come and do the job. So what the government needs to do is make sure that we don't the rank of the Boko Haram is, is depleted by getting Nigerian youth employed, by changing the focus of our orientation. There is a lot of anger in the minds of Nigerians against people in government. Forget about the party. The moment you say somebody is in government and he comes around, you come and see how Nigerians will hiss. Apart from, forget about this, Babasa, they will hiss and say, you have read comments on television now. Just to let you know the views of Nigerians about our leaders. Nigerians, they don't trust our leaders again. Because what is the big deal in saying, I want a loan? I want to take a loan to fight insurgency. Nigerians should have been happy ordinarily. But they said the ones you have been spending, have we seen results? That is the issue I've been driving at from the beginning. It is not about the loan that is bad, but have we seen results? Is it desirable? And that is exactly the voice of Nigeria, which I think Femi Falana has.
We have Williams calling from Ekiti. Williams, good morning.
That Obama has already predicted what will happen this year. That is the reason why
we can hear you. Go on, Williams.
Okay, so unfortunately, is it the issue of money that is for security purposes? It's just like you want to have American predictions. America said in the year 2015. Nigeria is going to bust in pieces. That is the purpose of the money that America is looking for. You know, it has to that administration. That's the whole thing. He just don't want to see that point of using that kind of money. People are here. No money. The education, not food. People are crying. And they are using that kind of money. People are not talking about it. As what we use the money for? Why are they for people? Is it better? Or to kill the Nigerians? It doesn't get that kind of money. What is looking for? I'm not everybody can see the advice of the world. Things are everywhere. There are no peace. I don't know what's trying to do. I'm afraid of some upside down. What's going to help? They are not considering it. They are going upside down. You see, I'm not able to understand if here is a battle ground. Let me get all the money from the House of Assembly and see what goes on. You know, prepare the Nigeria to for anger prediction. That's the thing.
Thank you very much, Williams. That's Williams from Ekiti. Thank you for your contribution. And he's also talking about the $1 billion loan that Nigeria is talking about, the federal government is talking about, and talking about, we've read we've seen the handwriting on the wall about previous monies that have gone into defense. You were talking about the issue of unemployment. Do you feel this number of unemployed youths in Nigeria should be recruited into the Nigerian military as a solution? Before you answer that question, we have Kalita Aruku from Kogi. Nigerians need good schools, hospitals, social welfare, security and infrastructural amenities. Our leaders can't provide these, but can enrich their pockets. The president who is not ready to spend and be spent for his country, governors whose interest is self, and leaders whose fight is for their tribes and religions. Another loan request by the president, another millennium in Egypt. Well, majority seem to oppose this move by the federal government. Yes, should we, in a way of providing jobs for this unemployed youth, recruit them into the army?
Yes, that is another faulty step that they made about 3 weeks ago, when this issue of the morale of the military is very low. Then the military personnel, do we have enough? Yes, we might be looking at the population. I'm using it a number of the military personnel, but there's a need for you to look at their chemistry. Now, they are opening doors for Nigerian youth to come and join the army. Oh, I have got an job opportunity, let me go. But not because the guy intentionally and originally wanted to be...
Let me hold you again. We have James from Ilorin. Good morning, James. Hello?
Good morning. I just want to thank the gentleman for doing this show. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please go on.
Hello?
James, we can hear you. Go on.
Okay. I really feel the question I want to ask is, it's not just about people who are worried. We have other people there intelligence that people are living average. It's still insurgency. So I don't believe that it's just about the leader, more about the leader itself, and not the leader. So again, to get the youth and grow. And then it goes deeper than that. Because if you look at the show about youth, it's not such a thing. Unemployment is more. I really like just my contribution to the show this morning.
Thank you very much, James. Thank you. If you must call us, please remember to turn down the volume of your TV set. Thank you for your contribution. You want to react to that?
Yes. About mass recruitment into the military, and I was making reference to these guys you are bringing in. You are bringing them in because people have been shouting, and these guys themselves, did they have it intentionally, originally, to join the army? Maybe the guy read biochemistry, he has traversed the whole of Nigeria for years, no job. Oh, opportunity coming, let me join the army. But the chemistry of that body, the infrastructure or the texture of the person, was he prepared for the military? You give them three weeks military training, you push them to Zambia. Will that solve the problem? That is the problem of not long-term planning, which we don't have in this country. And that is why our educational sector has become a rot that we have today. Because many of the people in the teaching profession were not originally trained to be teachers. But because he has not been able to get a job, she has not been able to get a job, there is a job teaching opening, he goes into it looking for other jobs. The same thing in every areas. There's the need for us to plan our life properly. So that even if you are recruiting people into the army because they originally wanted to be an army officer. Look at the police. Some people join the police not because they love the police work, but because there are no jobs outside. But this is where orientation comes into it. And there's a need for us to be very careful about this thing.
We have this one from Kalita Aruku from Kogi. Nigerians need, we've taken this earlier, where she says, or he says, I don't know the gender now, saying that we need schools, hospitals, social welfare, security and infrastructural amenities. Our leaders can't provide these, but can enrich their pockets. And he's saying that another loan request by the president is another millennium in Egypt.
Let me quickly say something. Actually, on the guy who called from Ekiti.
Yeah.
He said something that has been agitating my mind for some years. Whether it was from American government or from Campbell, somebody from an American predicted in year 2000
yes,
that by year 2015, Nigeria is likely to break up. There's a need for Nigerians to scrutinize that statement. As at the time that guy made that statement, Chief Obasanjo was the president of Nigeria, and the only problem we had in Nigeria then was the problem of OPC. OPC was the only one ravaging the Southwest. They were wreaking havoc, destroying people, killing people. And after that, what happened? We went to the Bakassi boys. From there, we went to Igbesu. After that, we went to Niger Delta militants. Now it's insurgency from the north. Don't we think, I don't know if our security agencies are looking in that direction, that perhaps this thing might have been engineered from outside to at least put finality on that prediction of 2000. I don't know, because that's the way because I cast my mind back and I look at the OPC problem. It was just located within Southwest.
Okay, before we continue, we have another one, Ndoma Chime from Oka. Isn't it a disgrace that a whole Nigeria cannot provide electricity, affordable education, good health facilities across the nation, good roads, and adequate employment to meet the needs of graduates? Rather, the government enjoys pardoning criminals who are meant to be in jail. Like electricity, Boko Haram has now become a convenient excuse to steal and loot the nation with impunity. When shall we find light? That's a question from Acheme. Of course, that's a question on the lips of every Nigerian. And talking about what you just said, you know, we had this accusation from Global Profile Alliance accusing an international image of who deals in agricultural products and all of that, of trying to introduce genetically modified organisms, GMO, into the country by thinning out the agricultural sector in the northern part of the country. And in one of the papers, we heard the government introducing this GMO. Now, the question is, how well have we dealt with information being provided in Nigeria?
I am not an apostle or a student of this conspiracy of a thing, because I believe that even if they are conspiring against you, how come that you are falling into their trap? So if there's this contraption from the Americans or from where, because I've read so much about it, I've always dismissed it, because how are we as a Nigerian, as a country, trying to protect our interests?
Please, let's take this one from Obinaize from Abia. If Kenya can curtail a more battle-hardened, more ruthless Al-Shabaab with little resources, our government should not be struggling with Boko Haram. This government has rendered 70% Nigerians powerless on every side. The people know that they have no say in the government, and they are sure that come 2015, even if they vote, it will not count. We have surrendered and are now mere spectators in the plunder of our own destiny. We shall overcome someday. Well, overcoming, how are we going to do that?
You know, there's this Yoruba proverb, you know, the sheep is about the humblest and the most gentle animal created by God. Yoruba believe that even if you push it to the wall and there's no way for the sheep to escape, it will turn back. It won't just turn back to attack you. Maybe that's what is going to happen. Like the last the contributor said, we seem to be mere spectators. We're just watching them, looking at what they are going to do. But it will get to a stage, I just pray, that they will not push the so-called harmless Nigerians to the wall. Now to the conspiracy theory. I told you I don't believe in it. Even if they are conspiring against you, how far are you going to make sure that the conspiracy works? So if there is any international organization that is working on this GMO of a thing, at least our Minister for Agri has been winning accolades and awards all over the places because they said it's working. And I've been to the market as a journalist. I look at price of food and stuff like that, and I wonder. But the point is, Nigeria is faced with myriads of problems. I get my point. The problem is who is going to get us out of this morass. I was coming this morning because the traffic was so heavy. I had to abandon my car to get to this place because if I had wanted to come with my car, maybe I'll get there by 11. A journey that shouldn't take 30 minutes. When I got to Berger, I saw the rowdiness, let me call it the insanity of these Okada boys. They want to pass, vehicle want to pass, and I asked myself, who is going to put an end to this rot? How is Nigeria going to continue like this? And then we think we are going to make a headway. But we need somebody at the top. Somebody at the top that knows that he owes it a duty to make Nigeria to go back to what should be referred to as there was a country. Some of us lived in this country 20 years ago. We lived in this country 30 years ago. We remember with nostalgia the Nigeria when we were growing up. Nigeria is no more Nigeria of yesterday. The book There Was a Country by Chinua Achebe is a book for our leaders to read. They have killed this country. And there's no hope that they even know the gravity, enormity of the problem they have created. After what do? They are engaged in how do I win an election in 2014, in 2015. Government is more than election. That's what our politicians don't know. Government is a 24-hour thing. That's what you see when Obama became American president. He looked boyish. But this day, you see an aged man, somebody like 70, because it's a 24-hour business. You don't even, how many times did you hear Obama getting involved in what is happening in the House of Assembly, or what is happening in the Congress, or what is happening in the Democratic Party? It doesn't concern him again. When you become the president, you become a president, not a party man. But in Nigeria, the governor wants to know who becomes the chairman of his party, and you expect something from that governor. The president wants to know who becomes the chairman of his party, and you expect something from that president. It is not possible. We have misplaced our priority. As long as we have these people, charlatans in government, we'll continue to have this thing. We'll continue to debate, not to debate development, but to develop the rot in the system.
Thank you very much, Dipo Olayokun, for honoring our invitation today. And I hope that next time we call on you, you'd answer us.
It's always my pleasure.
And of course, thank you to you who placed your comment on Facebook this morning. And like someone said that we cannot do anything but spectators. I do not want to agree with that, because if we must overcome someday, then it is left to you and I to do something about it. Let us begin to question the status quo. Let us begin to bring those who we have elected into places of position to question. Let us ask them how our monies are being spent. And about this one of $1 billion, of course, it is still going to the National Assembly. What comes out of there is what determines whether we're going for the loan or not. But of course, time is a good test for every situation we find ourselves. But another thing I want to leave us with this morning is let us not just allow time go by us. Let us do something with time. And I'm talking to the youths of this nation, and that is you and I. Of course, Core Digest continues tomorrow with more exciting topics. It will be good to have you join us again. And tomorrow it starts at 9:30 on Core TV News. I am Ebulomo Adekunle. Thank you for watching.
Core TV News presents a platform with presence in over 30 states of the Federation. Be sure to be had. For live coverage of events, we have the capacity to deliver from anywhere in Nigeria and beyond. Contact us now on 0803-471-8550 or 0803-724-9733, 014-533-407.
A 24-hour news station.